the last part of this advertising incentives section of your class, we're going to talk more about incentives, specifically about the categories of incentives. There's the fundamental motivations for sport consumption. There's basically 27 of them if we look at the idea of this incentives. As we've mentioned before, the key to understanding or knowing incentives is to know your consumer group before you determine which type of incentive to pursue. And so the important thing to know is, what is the reason why it is encouraging consumption? What is the reason why you offering this bobblehead or this price discount is actually causing people to come out? And so the different categories of incentives or reasons why are these 5, and I'm going to go through each 5 of these: achievement, craft, affiliation or community, health and fitness benefits, and fun and festival. So again, these are reasons why a person is actually attracted to an incentive. So if I create an incentive based on the first one, which is achievement, we know that it says something about the consumer group. So, for example, look at the difference in intrinsic versus extrinsic achievement. If a consumer is motivated by intrinsic reasons, then we know they're psychological reasons. If we know that they're motivated by extrinsic reasons, we know that they're sociological, based on the people around them and how they interact with other people. And so let's take, for example, over the next couple of slides, talking about achievement, the different types of consumers that we deal with in the sport industry. The first one is the participant. So if we look at participant as a consumer, we have to look at, again, the intrinsic and extrinsic motivations of why people do it. I chose, for example, the runners, and specifically something we mentioned earlier in the semester about trail runners. We know that through different research, there's different skills to try to understand motivations of runners, especially these long distance runners. The MOMS is the MOMS, the Motivation of Marathoners Scale. They look at why marathoners go out and run. And then there's another one that actually a colleague and I have put together that helps understand the trail runners. And again, if you remember, it's for later. If you remember, trail runners are those that, let me zoom in this in, sorry. Trail runners are those that go out and run on hiking trails, so they could be things, they're not the ones that are running on the road, essentially. And many times we're talking about ultra runners. And so the motivation of trail ultra runners is what we call this motor scale. Ultra runners are considered those that are longer than a marathon. And so while the MOMS scale, or the MOM scale, Motivation of Marathon Runners scale, is important to understand, we know that people that go beyond the distance of a marathon and don't run on roads, they run outside, may have different reasons for running. And so we collected this data to try to determine the different motivations of why people do things. So first of all is, do they do it to challenge themselves physically? The answer is yes. We see it ranked from high to low. The second reason they do is to be outdoors on trails and in nature, to challenge themselves mentally, to test their limits, to accomplish goals, just for the fun of it. And all the way down to, at the bottom, you see, to compete with others, to have religious, spiritual experience, and so on and so forth. And so if we look at it, going back to this idea of achievement, we know that through those different motivational scales, that we might say that it's an intrinsic motivation, to challenge yourself. And later you saw some other ones, to do something that was different, to challenge yourself physically and mentally. Again, the reasons why participants do things. The same thing would be reasons why people like the wide world of sports at Disney World. We know that the Disneyfication of sport facilities such as this, the word Disneyfication means that it's all-inclusive, that there are extrinsic and intrinsic motivations for that. Another one is that through achievement as a spectator, as a consumer. One thing would be about the reward structure. And this is where I want to show you an example of the 12th Man Rewards Program. Sorry, here we go. The 12th Man's Rewards Program. Here you've got essentially every time a student goes to a sport organization, or sorry, a sporting event at A&M, they can scan their card, and the number of scans that they get will give you a dictation of how many points you get. So I zoomed in a little bit here. So you can see that somebody who attends 12 events, if you think about the number of home games for football, that's most students at A&M go to a football game, then you are on the point level of an active roster. You're now an official member of the 12th Man Rewards Program, and you'll receive official 12-man rewards t-shirt along with your personalized scan card. You go to 24 events, you're all SEC, you've reached the status, and you receive an official Adidas visor, the Coach Summerlin visor. Attend 36 events, you're in the Hall of Fame, or so All-American, I'm sorry. Here you'll receive a tennis jersey. 72 events, you get in the Hall of Fame, and you receive a large duffel bag. And if you attend 100 events, you're considered a legend, and you're offered an official Adidas watch. And I believe that if you go to all events at home, and these are all home events again, sorry about that. I meant to say they're all at home, they're not away events. But if you go to all events at home, they'll actually honor you during one of the football games. So again, why is this? Well, it's about achievement. You're talking about a spectator who has nothing really to do with the outcome of the game, but they are trying to, this idea of live vicariously, so we call it vicarious achievement. Again, this is an incentive that tries to encourage consumers' consumption, so increased behavioral response, but also we're trying to reward them for that. And so programs like this, the 12th Man Rewards program. Others would be Burger and Corfing. We've talked about this before. Basking in reflective glory, casting off reflective failure. Again, the we versus the they phenomenon, living vicariously through that group. And then word of mouth and electronic word of mouth changes how people express achievement through social media. And so, again, incentives that are trying to encourage this idea of achievement in spectators is one of those types of categories. And the third one is the sponsors. And so most sponsors are seeking some sort of profit. Usually sales is a goal. It kind of depends on the organization. So the key to securing any type of sponsor is that you get to the corporate decision maker, you encourage them and help them understand that the sponsorship proposal that you're giving them is a fit or a match between the company's current promotional objectives and what you can offer as a sponsor. Again, you have to match the needs of the corporate sponsor with what you can offer. And so if through the incentives, maybe they're wanting to be on the video board, yet they don't want to pay for it, yet you need to sell the sponsorship on the video board. You might give a price discount if they purchase other types of sponsorship activities. And so in any sales campaign, you have to be able to do this. All right, the second category is craft. This is essentially depends on the group, but most often it's about skill development. So if you can offer an incentive that encourages or helps somebody enhance their own personal skills, then you'll attract them. Specifically, we're talking about participants as consumers. They might find incentives to encourage a consumption of a good such as a personal trainer. From a spectator standpoint, you would want to offer exclusive opportunities to watch their favorite players in action. Maybe invite them to a lunch or a dinner. Many season ticket holders offer season ticket holder luncheons with the team and the coaches. Are also trying to sell a sponsorship and season tickets in one. And then the sponsors would be another example. This would be offering hospitality areas as incentives for spending money in their sponsorship with their organization. The third one is the affiliation or community. If you're trying to offer an incentive that's trying to get people to associate their organization with their consumers, we see this idea of the exclusive partner of a sport organization. We can see that this is an example. We also see that customer-to-customer affiliation is important. So this is the idea of social facilitation. We know that sports are unique in that less than 2% of people attend sporting events alone. And so social facilitation is important. So if we can offer incentives for groups where consumers, if you bring out a group of 20, then we're going to throw in a group t-shirt that's got our team logo and on the back is your group's name. That's an example. Customer to organization affiliation, so this is being exclusive partners with the sport organization, makes it even better. So buy your season tickets and we'll give you a personalized jersey that says season ticket holder or something like that. And then also for the sponsor, we know that many times sponsors are looking for an image transfer. We talked about that in chapter 7, place marketing. But we know that if we want image transfer in the minds of our sport consumers, then we know that image transfer is something that can be done through this affiliation or community with the organization. The fourth one is that the health and fitness benefits. This is obviously one of the key reasons why participant sport incentives. And so we're talking about gym memberships, for example. Sign up for 6 months and you get 2 for free or something like that. It needs to do something that has to do with helping them encourage or increase their fitness goals or achieve their fitness goals through some sort of incentive. Many times you have to think about participants and what they're concerned with. Many of them are about the cleanliness of facilities, the safety of equipment, and so you have to ensure that your incentives are also touching on those things. From a spectator standpoint, we know that studies show that sports spectators are able to keep a life balance between work. We also know from the Maslow's hierarchy of needs that self-actualization comes many times through spectatorship. It also shows that we've shown the research that improves self-esteem if you are a spectator of a fan, and helps develop value in your life. And so we know that there are health and fitness benefits of being spectators, and showing that in incentive is another way you can do it. And then from a sponsor standpoint, this is typically we look at fitness facilities. We know that some sponsors, especially large corporations, if you become a sponsor of a, let's say, a fitness center or something like that, we know that sponsors are oftentimes hosting wellness programs, and these things, for example, would be encouraging fitness or activity in your gym in order to receive discounts on your health insurance, things that help out the bottom line of the company. And so sponsors, sometimes we're looking at health and fitness benefits, are trying to include that in their incentive. The fifth one is fun and festival, or fun and festivity. Essentially, this is in a category in which you're trying to encourage some sort of excitement. So for sports participants, we're talking about youth. Youth sports growing. We know that grassroots marketing is one way that this helps lead to consumption in many of sport organizations later in life. So club teams such as the Dallas FC Dallas or the Houston Dynamo have club teams. They're trying to get youth involved in the sport, but at the same time, they're trying to encourage fun. If we know that kids are not having fun, they're going to get burned out, and we know that sometimes causes actually decreased consumption of our sport later on. From a spectator standpoint, fans want to go to events that provide excitement, and so that's why we know that events that have fireworks after the game, concerts during halftime, or whatever it may be, is something that encourages attendance. And so that's an example of a fun and festivity type of incentive. And then we know that sponsors, they're looking for opportunities to reward their employees. And so if we can offer them tickets to give their employees a good time, or activities during or before or after the game, we know that those are also incentives we can give to sponsors. And so really when we implement an incentive plan, we know that planning is essential. Essentially, the steps that you would go through in implementing a incentive plan is specifying the objective, so knowing what objective of your incentive it is, determine who you're going to include in that. In other words, what type of category are you looking at? Who's going to be your target audience? So specify the recipient. Who's your target audience for the promotion? Does the promotion match the intended audience? Number 4 is determine the direction. Is whatever you're putting into place a positive or a negative thing? Going back to the price promotion, are you discounting too much, not enough, that kind of thing? Do you require the audience to do something in order to get the incentive? So we're talking about contingency-based price promotions. Or does it match the purpose of the incentive? Are you actually trying to are you actually encouraging consumption in whatever manner? And then the 5th one is determine the form. So is it monetary? So do you give them cash return? Do you give them a discount? Is it a coupon they have to bring in? Or is it non-monetary? So you're giving a bobblehead or something like that. Number 6 is determine the amount. So the concept of just noticeable difference is what we're talking about here. In other words, did the consumer get enough reward for the money that they invested? So was there a equal return on whatever it is that they're spending money on? And the last one is determining the time of payment. So is it immediate? So at the event or at the store, or is it delayed? So this is where we come into mail in rebates. So purchase the product and then mail in your rebate and we'll give you a discount. And so all these things are things you have to think about in incentives. So make sure you complete the remainder of this chapter and move on to remainder of this section of this chapter and move on to the next chapter.